Welcome to Winchester Beat, a local news roundup for Winchester, Mass. We aim to bring you the latest community news in a fast format to keep you informed without slowing you down.
Hello and welcome. I'm Tara Hughes.
And I'm Jennifer Hafley. We've got a slightly longer show for you this week as we speak with a special guest, Philip Frateroli, the town moderator. Mr. Frateroli presides over town meeting, and he joins us to give a preview of Springtown meeting, which starts April 27th at 7 p.m. at the high school.
But first, we have a very brief recap of this week's news. There are a lot of moving parts as the schools and town departments grapple with hard decisions about spending and job cuts as a result of the failed override.
Springtown meeting must approve a budget, and the Select Board, School Committee, and Finance Committee are holding a joint meeting just after this recording to discuss options.
The education budget, which represents about 2/3 of the town budget, is a key focus. Winchester News reports that the district must cut about $3.3 million after the failed override. As part of those cuts, the schools are looking at budget cuts equivalent to about 30 to 35 full-time positions.
The school budget cuts are already having a real impact, especially for the Morocco Elementary community. Winchester News reports that at least 100 people packed a school committee meeting on April 9th to protest a previously announced plan to send Morocco's kindergarten and first grade classes to Lynch next year. That plan was withdrawn, but the outrage remained.
At the same meeting, the school committee voted 3-2 to defer the Morocco feasibility study to fall town meeting. That study is required for any rebuild or renovation. According to school committee chair Timothy Matthews, the superintendent requested the delay so, quote, the district can assess the failed override's impact on Morocco's educational plan, end quote. In a 5-0 vote, the school committee also expressed support for rebuilding Morocco.
Turning to Springtown meeting, we're delighted to have the town moderator, Philip Frateroli, with us today. Before getting into our discussion, we wanted to share a few other resources.
Winchester News has created a Springtown meeting guide, which includes a warrant tracker so you can follow your favorite issues. Go to www.winchesternews.org and click on the blue graphic at the top of the page.
And the town manager's hearing, which discusses topics not covered in other public hearings, is on April 22nd at 6:30 p.m. It is open to the public, and you can register for the Zoom link on the town's website. Now, here's our conversation with town moderator Philip Frateroli. So, Philip, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So many people in town know who you are, but for those who don't, could you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself and why you ran for town moderator?
Sure. Moved to Winchester when I was like 6 or 7. We started in the North End, and then my family bought the White Block building on Mount Vernon Street and opened Ristorante Lucia there in 1985. And then bought some land up on Azalea Road, up on the west side, and built a house. So that's where I grew up. Went to Vincent Owen School, McCall Middle School, the high school. I went to Boston College and then to Suffolk Law. Came back, first got married and had my first daughter in North End with my wife Kelly. And then we decided to move back to Winchester. So I think that was in 2017. So as I said, I went to law school. I'm in the restaurant business just like my father was. Being on town meeting kind of re-sparked just a love that I had when I was growing up. I would watch town meeting on Channel 19. What was WinCam back then was Channel 19. And John Sullivan, who was the moderator for 37 years, including when I was a kid, he really loved the town. He really loved town meeting and the back and forth and the debate and kind of the civic process of self-governance that town meeting represents. My mom was a member of town meeting. She was on FinCom for a little while, and I just remember this just watching it and kind of having this awe of how people could govern themselves. So when I moved here after a couple years, I decided to run for town meeting. I got on in 2021, got to be a part of town meeting, and I really, really liked it and started to get more interested in parliamentary law, parliamentary rules, and then decided to put my name on the ballot for moderator.
And how long have you been moderator?
This is my second year, so ran for the first time last year, won, and then this year I'm serving for a second year, but it's a 1-year term. So it's super accountable to the voters, and I think that's a good thing. There's no resting on your laurels, but I mean, generally it's not like a very contested position. You're not really a partisan. You're just kind of calling the balls and strikes in town meeting and trying to make sure the right things are conversations are happening and everybody is coming together for the good of the town.
Not many kids actually decide to watch
I
town
know.
meeting
Were you in
happen.
Were you in high school when you were watching it?
So when I was a kid, and this is kind of relevant now, when I was in second grade, there was a referendum to close Vincent Owen.
Oh.
And my mom, at the time, there was no lawn signs in Winchester. It was like verboten. So the practice was to have these like 3-cornered car racks on top of the car with the placards on each side. And my grandfather was a carpenter, so he made them, and my mom had one on her car, and it said, "Keep 5 alive." That was the slogan back then.
Interesting.
And she was very involved, and I remember the day after the election, going to Vincent Owen, and everybody being really happy that they weren't closing it. And it turns out it's a good thing they didn't, because it wasn't long before they needed the space, and Vincent Owen at the time was very small, and now they had to rebuild it much bigger to accommodate all the kids that were on the way. So it's
Maybe some parallels to today's world.
Yeah, I don't know about like the trends in terms of populations and everything like that, but this is something that's happened before in town, and the elementary schools that we have now are different from the ones that we had back then. So there's always just been this kind of conversation, and we live in a living, breathing town and not in a museum, so that's part of it, I guess.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest thing you've learned now being town moderator?
One thing I've learned is that nothing's like permanent in Winchester. I think we have elections every year. We have town meeting twice a year. So whether it's the override or something that fails at town meeting, it doesn't mean it's necessarily killed forever. I think the conversation continues with the voters and with boards and committees and elected officials, and I think there's a good chance that whatever happens this time just informs everybody for the next time, and things can kind of go forward that way. I think it's just an ongoing conversation.
Are you still a town meeting member? And
Yes.
can you vote as moderator?
So this is kind of an interesting kind of thing. So Winchester went from an open town meeting to a representative town meeting in 1927, I believe. But prior to that, I think in 1915, they went from having the moderator selected as the first order of business of town meeting to having an elected town moderator. So, but when we went from having open town meeting to representative, then the moderator from then on just kind of ran as a town meeting member. And there's a tradition in New England with town meeting. I mean, town meeting goes back to the 1600s, that the moderator will vote just to break a tie or to cause a tie. So if I had not been a member of town meeting, then that right would not exist. But because I am a member of town meeting from Precinct 6, then I continue to have that honor.
Do you know if that's ever happened in town?
Nobody really, I don't know, in town. I mean, like anybody with a kind of a long history in town meeting doesn't remember it ever happening.
Yeah.
So hopefully it doesn't have to happen, but I think it's a good kind of indicator of when it's time for the moderator to go, when he can't, or he or she can't win re-election as a town meeting member.
You've already touched on it, but could you explain a little more like what town meeting is and the difference between the open and the representative town meeting?
So town meeting is the form of government that we have in Winchester. I think there's 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts. I think 270 of them have town meeting. And it's basically we're like the legislative branch for the town. The town is divided up into 8 precincts, and each of those precincts has 24 seats in town meeting. And on a 3-year rotation, 8 seats are up in each precinct, so that each term is 3 years. So 192 altogether. Pretty much any spending that the town does, any appropriation, has to be approved by town meeting. So we have to kind of sign off on, the town budget every year. We're given the authority to change bylaws for the town. So things like that.
We'll get into actually the Springtown meeting that's
Yeah.
coming up now. So I'm curious if the failed override has impacted preparation at all for you going into the Springtown meeting.
Well, not for me. I mean, I think it's making some decisions harder, and I think that makes town meeting a little bit harder. I think there's, just harder decisions to be made, and stronger feelings for everybody going into it. So I think it's going to be, hopefully everybody can come together and find the right path forward and balance all these challenging things. Like I said, I think, doesn't mean that we're always going to be operating in this kind of environment, because that could change. I think the select board is planning to bring back another override question. So, I mean, who knows, what the future is, but I think it definitely made that job a little bit harder in terms of, what the challenges are.
Yeah.
What particular warrant articles do you think will cause the most debate?
The town budget is always a very contentious kind of thing, particularly the school line element in the budget. I think Forest Ridge, that might be a pretty heated debate. The macro feasibility study, because there seems to be a disagreement between two of the relevant committees. Literacy is on the warrant. I'm not sure that will be very controversial, but I think that's an important one. I think that's probably the big ones.
Could I just follow up on the Morocco
Sure.
feasibility?
Yeah.
Is there a way to bring it back to town meeting now if they voted to not go forward with it? The school committee.
So town
sorry.
meeting is not like a regular meeting where like the select board can just, if something's on the agenda in a meeting, they can take it off. Once it's on the warrant, it's on there. So town meeting has to do something with it. So even if the school committee is asked to indefinitely postpone, so when that happens, there still has to be a vote. And so that's what will happen. The school committee will ask for it to be, it's called IP, indefinitely postponed. And then as the moderator, I'll ask other boards and committees what their recommendations are. It seems as if the EFPBC, which is the Educational Facilities Building and Planning Board Committee, they wanted to go forward. So that will be their recommendation to town meeting. I suspect many people will want to be heard on this. If the IP passes, then it gets IP'd, and it can be brought back out in the fall. It doesn't kill the thing, and I think that's why the school committee is asking for it, is because they want to bring it back. They're just not ready yet to do the work. But if the IP fails, it doesn't mean that because it fails, it automatically gets, like the feasibility study goes through. There still has to be an affirmative thing, especially where this is a borrowing, so it's a 2/3 majority that's required. So if IP fails, then there will be a discussion about a new motion to bring forward the feasibility, and then that one would have to pass by 2/3. We're not going to be able to speak to the question of closing Morocco or anything like that. This will be a discussion just based on feasibility. If this is the time to go forward with it, if we have all our ducks in a row. So this was my entry into Winchester politics. I empathize with everybody involved here, and I also am aware of the challenges that the school committee is reflecting in their decision to want to IP it. So my job is just to make sure that we as a community have a chance to get all the information and then make the best decision we can.
Have you had members of the public inquire about speaking on the Morocco feasibility or any other issue, and how is that handled?
Not yet. Usually we need to know ahead of time because it requires a vote of town meeting to approve that. And it's always an affirmative vote, but we need to know ahead of time if anybody plans to speak. And usually somebody will contact me or the town clerk.
But if they wanted to, the way to do that is to email you then?
Yeah, just to email
you or the town clerk?
Yep.
I was wondering if you wanted to discuss the upcoming article about town meeting time and the potential change and how that might impact
Sure.
town meeting.
So as a little bit of a background, Robert's Rules, as many of you might be aware, was created by General Robert around the time of the Civil War, and has been used as the basis for kind of parliamentary law in the United States since then. It's not the easiest read in the world.
Yeah.
So in the 1960s, a bunch of moderators in Massachusetts began working on a set of kind of guidelines for more specifically tailored to Massachusetts town meetings. This rule set has been developed, I think, in 4 different editions in the last 60 plus years. And it's more kind of geared towards exactly what is going on in the town meeting. The other thing that I like about it is that it also kind of is a guide to Massachusetts general laws that relate to town meetings. So for that reason, I think it's just a better resource for town meeting. And I think there's definitely some good reasons to switch. So I think that's probably all I can say on that.
I'm going to go back to the budget a little bit, but I'm curious, are there things that you wish town meeting members understood better about the different elements of the budget and how it works?
Yes. I think the thing that people have to understand is that we need to have a balanced budget by law. It's required that whatever town meeting does, it has to balance itself. So if somebody wants to add something to one place or the other, they have to have a funding source for that. So when we, go to town meeting, it's not as though, like if we spend money on this, we're not going to have it for that. Like that's all kind of factored in already. And then if we go kind of off book, then there becomes other questions, and we have to have funding sources for those things. But I think that's probably it, is that, we start with a balanced budget and then we have to end with one too.
Is that a town law or is that
I think that's a state law.
state law?
Yeah. Can't spend money that we don't have. I think the only way you can, I think, is for like snow and ice.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. There are also a lot of citizen petitions on the warrant this year. So can you, how does a citizen petition start? Are you surprised by the number? And if you can opine, do you expect any of them to pass?
So it seems like it's a little bit high, higher than normal. From what I understand, there's one that might not be in the proper form to go forward. It is asking something of town meeting that town meeting doesn't have the authority to do.
Can you say which one that is? Or do you
That's
prefer not to?
the drainage pipe one. And then on the zoning bylaw, that's another one where I think by state law, in order for town meeting to be able to hear it, it has to have had a public hearing at the planning board, and that hasn't happened yet. That can't go forward the way it is. Yeah.
And how do people go about forming a citizen's petition?
So I believe it's you can stop by the town clerk's office and she can give you the exact instructions, but I think it requires signatures from 10 citizens of Winchester to get it on the warrant. So
Surprised there
it's a
aren't
low.
more.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a low threshold.
Yeah.
Right, we have a few kind of, I hope, fun questions for
Okay.
you. But before that, is there anything else that you wanted to, discuss or make sure residents know about?
I think we have a really great kind of group of town meeting members, and I think, you see the interest throughout the town every election where there's contested elections in almost every precinct for town meeting. And, we have a very engaged kind of group, which is great. And there's only about, I think, 35 municipalities in Massachusetts that have representative town meeting. And that's mostly like the bigger ones. I think to be a city, you have to have 25,000 people. We're just below that, so we're like on the big side for a town. So with open town meeting, the people generally aren't as engaged, aren't as aware of what's going on. And then it's just like these wild swings of attendance based on like what's on the warrant. But I'm pretty lucky in terms of the other moderators in the state. I think all the open town meeting moderators kind of look down on the representative ones because we have a much kind of easier job. It's less chaotic. I think we have a great kind of form of government and just a great, very engaged member base.
Do you care to guess how many nights town meeting's going to go?
I think the first meeting that I had was 56 articles, and we did that on 4 nights. So I think we can do this one. It's 46. So I think we can do it in 4 nights.
If you were making a bingo card for Springtown meeting, what are 3 terms you would put on it?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I think the standard one, because there is a bingo card. I haven't seen it. I think they're trying to keep it away from me at every town meeting because they don't want to, have undue influence on the words I use. Definitely AAA bond rating will be on there. Definitely override is going to come up. Well, Morocco, for sure. The regular ones, I guess.
And I've heard that you often use football analogies. Did you play high school football?
I did, yeah. And I think, especially to try to gauge progress through the town meeting, the 100 yards of a football field are the best way to do it. Although we had a special town meeting in February, and that was just one article. So I was thinking about, apparently there's like this statue at the Naval Academy that when the graduating class, before they can graduate, they lather the whole thing up with like lard, and then they have to climb it. They have to somebody has to put like their hat on the top of this like 40-foot pole. So I was going to use that as an analogy for the one article, but it was easy enough to get through that one. But I'm open to suggestions. I don't want it to seem like I care more about football than the other sports.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you for all the work that you put in.
No problem.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Again, Springtown meeting starts Monday, April 27th at 7 p.m. at the high school. It meets Mondays and Thursdays until all business is finished. Budget discussions should start on Monday, May 4th. All meetings are open to the public and broadcast live and on demand on WinCam.
Before we go, we wanted to note a couple of upcoming events. Saturday, April 25th is Safe Disposal Day. Medications and needles can be dropped off at a tent in front of the transfer station from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
And on April 30th, Lynch Elementary School will be open for a public tour. The new Lynch opened in September 2025 and is an all-electric net zero building. Principal Chrissy Capodanno and Sustainability Director Ken Pruitt will lead the tour, which starts at 3 o'clock outside the front entrance. All are welcome.
And a final note, Winchester Beat is off next week for April vacation. In anticipation of Springtown meeting, we are working on a Winchester Perspective show on school enrollment, school funding, and the school budget. If you have questions on these topics, please send them to us at winchesterbeat01890@gmail.com.
And that's it for today's show. Thanks as always to WinCam for hosting us.
Thanks for listening. We hope you'll join us again for our next episode. Have a good week, and stay curious, Winchester. You've been listening to Winchester Beat. Find us on Apple, Spotify, WinCam, and YouTube.